So I just got done watching the final episode of Attack on Titan, the final season, and it had a very weird way to leave the series. No, I'm joking. There's going to be a part two. I've never understood why they do part one and part two of a final, but it is what it is. So we will have a little bit of a wait. Apparently, 2022 is the current scheduled time in which that second part will come, and we'll just have to be patient and wait. Yeah, I did kind of think it was going to do that just because of the fact that I have read the manga up to a certain point, not the end, and I was like, either they're gonna rush the crap out of these later episodes or they're gonna have a second part. So it is what it is. This is my thoughts on Attack on Titan, the final season, technically part one. For those who don't know, we're like 75 episodes in at this point, so I'm not going to avoid spoilers. So if you have not watched the series and you want to avoid spoilers, I'll just say go watch it. I've always said that. I think the studios have been doing a fantastic job adapting this manga, making it very clear, cutting a lot of the fat, moving a couple things around, and I prefer the anime over it. I suggest a lot of people that I know it's an unpopular opinion to like an adaptation more than a source material, but I do prefer it, and I think it's incredible. And there's a lot of great moments. Every now and then they'll have some lulling points, and I do think that they have the writer had made it a little bit more grandiose than I had kind of hoped for, but he's got something in there he wants to tell, which I think is good as well. So that's my thoughts, non spoiler. Now moving on to spoiler field. So beyond this point, it's your own fault if you continue watching. So but yeah, I really did enjoy this series. I think it is a continuation of great storytelling. I like I said before, I was very mixed on them getting into, beyond the wall, going into other nations and looking into these other locations and telling their stories because I really did like the original cast, and I think moving away from them kind of was I didn't like it. But in the end, I do like the story the writer is telling. So it's like I prefer this, but I'm okay with you doing this kind of things, if that makes sense. But yes, obviously this season was extremely focused and darting in on the concept of the two nations and getting into the Marlians versus the Elians. And I like that concept. Granted, it is very we're pushing very so much into the idea of technically our own past that I won't name names because obviously censorship on YouTube. But yeah, hitting heavy on it. Not so much just that because we technically were getting into that in previous seasons, but really the mindset of people is a lot of it. And I think that was one of the things that I've always enjoyed about Reiner and his character. He's a character that I've always been. I think he's kind of that hidden gem character that I'm not sure a lot of people appreciate as much as I do. I still remember that moment where he essentially tells Eren what's going on, and it was just a weird. The way he said it was so weird because he was so mixed up. And he is kind of him and Gabby are like these. Even though I despise Gabby, him and Gabby are like this this very different viewpoint of that struggle. Reiner is struggling because he was behind enemy lines. He got connected to these people, and now he's seen that difference. Gabby is one of the prime examples of this brainwashing and not able to give up that viewpoint that you're wrong because you were told that, and now you are in this vicious cycle. And obviously, I think Eren is kind of pushing more towards the idea of just kind of preventing everything through just massacre. You have other characters that just want peace. So you have multiple views, because there's so many characters in this series, you have multiple viewpoints of how to handle the situation or how not to handle the situation, that I think it gives a lot of perspective to what the story can go into, and then having basically multiples of them getting shot down, you know, literally and figuratively. It is an interesting concept, and I really do enjoy it. And I think they do a really great job of a lot of that stuff. And I think even though I do despise Gabby, it's not really so much about again, obviously spoiler, super spoiler here. Her killing Sasha. It's more of her stubbornness to see what's in front of her. She's so brainwashed that she's annoying. And that is the struggle. Is like no matter what she sees, she still doesn't want to be wrong almost. And that's what makes her so annoying. And that's what makes you just want to get rid of her off the show. Yes, killing Sasha is also a big part of it, but it is her annoying nature, and it sucks because she has one of my favorite seiyus voicing her, and it's like, no, why did you have to choose her? I don't, I don't want to dislike that seiyu, but now I'm hearing that voice, and I'm gonna attach it to Gabby going forward. That's the struggle, but yeah, as usual. Incredible animation points. I think the obviously the elephant in the room is the change in studios from Wit Studio to Mappa. And granted, while Wit Studio wasn't completely blameless for some choices of CGI, they were mainly like, it was like the later seasons that they started using CGI, and I hated it then too. It was mainly for the Colossal Titan. It was like, okay, why this looks way awkward being CGI? Why is this CGI? It doesn't have the gravity that an animated, like in that first season, seeing the Colossal Titan fully animated, he looked huge. He looked massive. The moment they threw him in CGI and was keeping it at a range, he felt like a little goofy toy inside of a toy village. It didn't have that massive feel that we had from a colossal, massive being that just towered everything and felt humongous. Having this goofy CGI thing just wasn't working. And unfortunately, getting into this season with Mappa, and I don't agree with people going out there and attacking Mappa. I don't condone it whatsoever. So don't get me wrong. But I do have a dislike for it. I'm not going to go out there and start hating them and cursing them and everything. I don't like it. And they use it a lot. And pretty much every shot, most every single shot of the Titans fighting and stuff was CGI. And I was willing to give them that. I was willing to ignore, not really ignore, I'm never going to ignore it because I'll get into it later, but the thing that really did frustrate me a lot was the moment that I seen the actual human characters darting around on their gear, slinging around were CGI, and it was way off-putting. I did not like it, and I was really furious, and I almost was going to be very upset at it, but thankfully it seemed like after a couple episodes, and I think after a lot of the outcry that was coming out from it, they fixed a lot of that, and you really didn't see that anymore after that first few episodes. So I was really appreciative the fact they kind of took a step back and said, no, okay, let's either animate it traditionally, or let's just kind of be creative with some stills or whatever. So good on them for that. I just think it's very off-putting. I mean, like I said, I'd rather see stills sliding across the screen than very creative stills flashing across the screen than CGI goofy robotic thing going around. But that aside, I think the only other upset that I had was obviously Levi's fight against Zeke as the Beast Titan. It was just, it looked weird. Him just kind of looking around. It just, I don't know what it is about the CGI. It doesn't look. Obviously, it's probably just a lot to do with that clashing of art styles, that clashing of objects. Like, this does not look rounded. This looks extremely rounded. And that clash of art style that comes from CGI and traditional animation just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And I still to this day I hate when companies do the difference. I mean, I watch a lot of CGI anime, perfectly fine with it. I don't want it to be the standard, but trying to put the two together just doesn't work. It very rarely works. And when it does work, I'll call it out that it's working, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. So let's put that, we beat that to death. Let's put that over here and move on. But yeah, a lot of great moments. Like I said before, I'm not too into getting into the other nations. Honestly, I mean, bringing in the I forget what the clan was called, Mikasa's, where Mikasa apparently was from. getting into that stuff. I not too into it. A lot of the broader politics I've never really cared much for in Attack on Titan. It's usually very very basic stuff. Just reason for war really is all it is. Money versus power versus fear. It's really what they get into with each one of those ones, and it never really appeals to me. It's really a lot about the characters and what they think of the situation is what's the most appealing. Which is again is one of the reasons why I've enjoyed the adaptation, is cutting a lot of that repeated conversation, that fat out that I enjoy so much. So, but yeah, I was very curious. I mean, I seen it in the manga. It was just as painful to see it in the anime format, but things like Mikasa and her, desire to be with Eren, and Eren basically saying that he's disgusted by her. I don't know that if eventually it gets into that being a push away, or if that's really how he feels. But it was really an interesting way of giving that the Mikasa's bloodline gravitas, and giving Mikasa, kind of this aspect of inner conflict. Do I really like Eren and want to protect him, or is it my bloodline? And that's very very interesting to kind of get into eventually. Hange was excellent this season. This is definitely one of the moments where she starts shining. Of course, she's shined before, but she's mostly kind of the goofball. Whereas now she's really having to step it up and take lead. Levi obviously also is amazing. He's always amazing. Getting into Armin and his possibly having the feelings of Bertolt, and why he hangs around the crystal all the time, where Annie is, if that's his own desires, or if that's just the thoughts of the Titan, or the memories of the previous Titan holder. A lot of that stuff is really cool, and I there is something to be said about it being very kind of simple reveals, very simple, keeping it very simple, not getting too heavy into it. That is kind of appreciated in this regard. I don't think we really need to get too heavy into that stuff. So, but yeah, I think that's basically it. That's most of my thoughts on the series. Like I said, a lot of heavy emphasis on basically revenge begats revenge. A lot of brainwashing stuff they're getting into. The horrors of war. A lot of senseless kind of killings that one thinks is needed and others don't. It's just a lot of really heavy stuff they're getting into at this point, along with a lot of the crazy action that you would normally get from a lot of this stuff. I think a lot of really amazing visual pieces in this season. I especially liked the scene where the father of Sasha technically is confronted by her killer, Gabby, and that scene was amazingly portrayed. The scene with Eren, Mikasa, Armin, and Gabby in the same room was just really well put together and really well adapted. Some really incredible moments in the series, and I'm really looking forward to what's coming, because obviously, again, I've read a little bit forward, and so I'm looking forward to seeing a couple more stuff being adapted. And I might just check out the manga to finish it off, just because I don't want to wait an entire year and avoid spoilers for that long. So I'll probably check that out in order to get my conclusion. But I might make a video at that point to let you guys know my thoughts on it, in case those people that actually have finished it. So, but yeah, that's my thoughts on Attack on Titan, the final season. That's not the final season. It's part 1. I hope you all enjoyed my review. And as always, if you did, please leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a like. And I thank you all for watching, and y'all take care. I was so mixed on how they handled the Jaw Titan and Eren squeezing the jaw into the crystal. It looks so unsettling, and it was so well done directorially, but it's just I can't get past the CGI. But it was still a very very unsettling look. Like, just having them just both looking terrified at this gaping mouth, ready to consume the blood of this girl. It's just so unsettling, but yet, like, I can't get over the CGI. I'm sorry.